So Nearpod lessons can be done live, or they can be done at a student pace. Again, you can also create in Nearpod, right? Create your slides within Nearpod, or you can use the Google Slides add-on and create within Google Slides. I find creating in Google Slides to be easier because I like having all the bells and whistles in my Google Slides, and then I can just add those checks for understanding questions within my Google slide. And again, these are links if you wanted to go back later for helping you get started in creating in Nearpod or creating Nearpod in your Google Slides. So we're going to start by doing just a live student demo. I'm going to go through some of the interactive pieces of Nearpod, and then at the end you're going to practice actually a roundtable reflection using Flipgrid. So if you can, I'll put this link in the chat, head to our lesson, or you can go to Nearpod and type in this code. So in Nearpod, there are lots of pre-made lessons, which can also be really helpful because you're able to make a copy of those and then edit them. So if you're busy and you don't have time, you might want to go in there and search in their library and see what you can find, because you might find something that you're able to quickly modify instead of starting from scratch. So for this lesson, I found something about the legacy of Benjamin Franklin. If you know me, you know that I have like a weird, creepy obsession with Benjamin Franklin. It started in 8th grade. A teacher, I had to pick a founding father and write a paper. I chose Benjamin Franklin, and then my friends and family laughed at me about it for a long time because I'd be like, did you know Benjamin Franklin did this? Or did you know this? Or he's just a Renaissance man. And so it became like a long-lasting inside joke. And so when I started teaching, I don't remember how it came about, but then it became every year I would hide him in my slideshows, and kids started bringing me coloring books or little books or figurines, different Benjamin Franklin things. And so behind my desk, I have what they called my Benjamin Franklin shrine. So when I was going through this, I found this little lesson on Benjamin Franklin, which is then where my question about collaborating with somebody in history came. So, oops, that's that, the sign in. So you are accessing the Nearpod. I have it pulled up over here so I can see a bunch of you are already in here. 17 people in the Nearpod. So I'm going to quickly run through this. I wouldn't run through this as quickly if I had students. I would go slower, but I wanted to show you some of the features that Nearpod has and then allow you to practice this little roundtable reflection strategy, and then we can talk more about inserting Flipgrids into your Nearpods. I'm going to give it another 30-45 seconds or so. So one cool thing about Nearpod, you're seeing the teacher screen, right? Well, you're seeing the Nearpod lesson on your screen, but if you're looking through my slides, you're seeing the teacher screen. So I can choose to hide or show student names depending on if I want students to be able to see other students' responses and their names. Sorry, I have a presenter messaging me. Okay. We got 25 people. Okay, I'm gonna get started. Okay, so like I said, there are lots of lessons in Nearpod that you can pick and choose from. And so this is one that Nearpod created with iCivics, which is a really great civics lesson curriculum that you can find on the internet if you teach civics or if you're ever interested in teaching something civics related. They also have things like civics with math and civics and science. So if civics is something that you're interested in, that's another resource for you. Okay, so this is about Benjamin Franklin. Every Nearpod lesson that you find will start with an essential question. So our essential question is, how should we remember Benjamin Franklin's legacy and impact on the development of American government? I want to point out that at the end of our lesson, you are going to be responding to this essential question in a Flipgrid. So keep in mind, as we go through some of these things, how should we remember his legacy and impact? So again, the lesson, when you find it in Nearpod, will also have the different objectives. One thing I like is I'm able to take it and then I can add in different slides or activities as I see fit. So our first one is a collaborate board. So it kind of works as a Padlet. So if you could just quickly, what do you know about Benjamin Franklin's beliefs and accomplishments? So on a collaborate board, you can have where you have to approve, so you can see that I'm having to approve messages. So if I'm worried that students are going to say something inappropriate, I can turn on the approve, or I can have it where it just allows the messages to pop up without being approved. So if you're doing a live class, you might want to approve it, but you can also easily delete them. So if you're not approving it and you see one that is inappropriate, you can delete it quickly. So students can interact by hearting, right? So it's kind of like a Padlet, but embedded into your Nearpod. The only thing is they can't respond to each other. They can only, heart each other. So lots of things. He likes kites. He's a founding father, created the first post office. Yes, he was the first postmaster general. He experimented with electricity. He is a Renaissance man. The kids think it is funny that they call him my boyfriend when I was in the classroom. So it just became like the running joke that Miss Ghan likes old dead men. Okay, so that is a collaborate board. So also in today's lesson, we're going to focus on Benjamin Franklin. Right, this little blurb came in the Nearpod lesson that I chose. Right, so he's the man on the $100 bill. He's a founding father who signed all three major documents: the Declaration, the Treaty of Paris, and the Constitution. So we're going to explore some of his roles during the founding of America. Another cool thing that Nearpod has are these virtual field trips. So if you've never messed around with it, these virtual field trips are pretty cool. So you are now going to take a brief virtual field trip to visit Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where the Declaration and the Constitution were drafted. So you should be able to, on your screen, right, click around and move around Independence Hall. See, there he is. I'll give you a minute to mess around with that. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat as we're going through, and I'm going through this quickly because we only have 45 minutes. Philadelphia is one place that I've never been to, but I would like to. I was supposed to go there for SUHSD, but then COVID happened. So there are lots of different places. There's lots of different virtual field trips. So if you are using in Nearpod, or even if you're using it within the Google Slides, you can add virtual activities for your students. Some of them are more interactive than others. This one's not as interactive. That is an example of a virtual field trip. I've also seen where teachers have had students like make inferences about what they see, right, in the virtual field trip. So there's other ways you could extend a virtual field trip into more than just looking around. Okay, so next is reading about Benjamin Franklin. So something in Nearpod, they're all in Nearpod. Like in Nearpod, you'll click, you want to add a virtual reality activity, and then you can search through the different activities that they have. So another thing in Nearpod is you can add PDFs. So I've added in a PDF about Benjamin Franklin. So as the student, you can download the PDF and open it up. And depending on how much time you have, right, you could have this go into Kami, right, and students annotate it, or you could have them just read through the PDF. So I'm going to let you play around there for a minute. You might want to skim through, because remember at the end you are going to say what you think his lasting impact is. So if you have students doing readings, if you have a PDF, right, you can put it into your Nearpod, or you could also just add content. So if you wanted them to go to an outside website to read something, you could place content and they would click and take them to a reading on a website. So another way that you can deepen your Nearpod lesson. Okay, I'm skipping ahead. So the next thing is a chart. So what in Nearpod you can create charts. So you can see that each student has their own chart with different questions, and this is called a draw it. So students are able to draw what they believe the contributions during each phases of the Founding America. So note that this draw it goes along with that reading. I know that we didn't have time to go over the entire reading, but you can easily add in charts or what's graphic organizers, and students can draw or write the answer to the question. So just another way to interact, right? And as the teacher, I can see who is working on it. Like I can see that Mio and Ashley and Leticia and Martina, right? They're all working on here. So another way that you can provide interaction in your lessons, and I can check for understanding. If I see that a student has done something that I really like, right, I can pull it up. So I could go here to Ashley's and I can take a look at what it says, right? He encouraged signers to be brave and sign the seditious Declaration of Independence. So this is also kind of UDL, right? Because if you have students who are more artistic, they can draw. You can even pull in pictures, right? Or students can type text. So it allows them to have a little bit more creativity. So once a student has submitted, right, I can see that Sarah submitted hers. I can push it out to your screens. I can say, oh, look at this, right, and push it out, and now you're seeing her answers. So if you're doing a live lesson, that's another feature that's really helpful. I should speed up. I'm going to run out of time. So that's draw it. So during Franklin's time, there was, the snake, join or die, political cartoon. There was a political cartoon activity in here. I took it out, but it is pretty cool. You could have students draw a political cartoon, like in time, or find one on the internet and put it in there and explain it. So other ways that you can extend a Nearpod. So I was going to try a strategy before we get into our discussion. So Benjamin Franklin, he once said that those who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Given what you've learned about Benjamin Franklin, what do you think he meant by this? I don't know if you have been to other PDs, you may have seen this strategy before. Some people call it a chat waterfall or a chat avalanche. So I would like you to answer the question in the chat, but don't press send yet. Just type your answer in and then I'll count down and we'll all press enter at the same time. So what do you think he meant by this quote? Typing it in chat, but don't press send yet. It's okay. Okay, I'm going to count down 3. You can just press send what you have. So 3, 2, 1. Here we go. You give up liberty, you give up control. Political liberties are more important than strong centralized government. Don't be a sellout. Don't give up what you believe in. So that strategy is called chat waterfall or chat avalanche if you've never used it yet with your students. It can be helpful. Oftentimes, I think students, might respond. They might copy, right, what their other peers said in the chat. So this way you know that everybody is responding and they're not having to worry about what somebody else said. Okay. So another thing that Nearpod has is multiple choice questions. So here you have, which of Benjamin Franklin's accomplishments was most important for America? And remember, this is part of the essential question that you're going to use Flipgrid to use in the end. I see some people starting to answer. So another cool thing about the multiple choice is that once everybody has put in their answers, you can share the pie chart out to them of answers. So they're able to see, you know, what their peers felt was the greatest accomplishment. On the teacher end, on the back end, right, when you're going through your Nearpod, if all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I want to add a question, there's this add activity at the very top. So you're able to quickly add like a multiple choice or a short answer that maybe you didn't think about until the lesson started. So that's another cool feature. You're also able to switch to student view. So if you're sharing your screen, students would be seeing student view versus what we're seeing on my screen, which is teacher view. So the next thing is a video. When you, within Nearpod, you can add video content and you can choose to, you can kind of make an ed puzzle in Nearpod. So you can find a video on YouTube or find a video that they have created, because Nearpod has created some videos. And then you can embed questions into the video as checks for understanding. You can choose to either have the teacher play the video so everybody's watching it at the same time, or you can have students play the video so they're watching it at their own pace. So depending on bandwidth, sometimes having students play the video, right, is better than having the teacher play the video in a live session. So I'm going to say teacher plays, but I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to skip through it. So then there's, this is just a short answer feature. So if you were, you know, if as a class we did watch the video, we could follow up with what role did Benjamin Franklin play in the founding of America. Have students cite examples. And again, I could share student examples once they're submitted. I can share all the examples and hide the names. That way students aren't seeing other, you know, they're seeing the responses, but they're not knowing who wrote the response. So there's a short answer feature. I'm skipping through quickly so we have time. Okay, so the activity that we're going to practice is the roundtable reflection. So I've embedded a Flipgrid in this Nearpod, which you're going to see in a second. So you are going to go to the Flipgrid and answer our essential question, which was, how should we remember Benjamin Franklin's legacy and impact on the development of American government? Once you respond, you're going to watch 2 of your peers' responses, and you're going to summarize each of their responses on separate Collaborate boards. Okay, so then you're going to be able to see everybody's summaries of their peers, and then you're going to be able to revise your original response with new information that you may have learned from your peers. So this strategy is called a roundtable reflection. So you're going to first, we're going to go to the Flipgrid. Your screen should prompt you there. If you've never used Flipgrid before, you're going to scroll down and you're just going to click record a response. Notice that I've added the essential question here, and I've also added some frames for you. So you're going to take a couple minutes to record your response. And then once you're finished recording, you're going to watch one of your peers' responses. If you could let me know in chat when you've recorded and listened to a recording, or listened to 2 recordings. We can try and be quicker. 45 minutes is short. Your Nearpod shut down. You can hop back in. I'll put the link in there. Anytime you see the little blue circle, also, I could point out that that's immersive reader. So it's built into Nearpod. So if you have students with, if you have like EL students, or you have students with disabilities who may have reading comprehension or reading at a low level, you can use immersive reader and it will read, it'll read the page for them. Oops. So I can see on the teacher side that Julie and Sarah have their videos. So once you do your video, go and watch somebody else's video, and you might want to write down or remember something that they said, because you're gonna type what you learned on a Collaborate board from one of those peers. Oh, yeah, I didn't know I had it that way. Oops. I've never approved them before. I didn't know that that's a thing. Oops.
So attention.
Look at that, activate responses. I feel like Flipgrid wasn't a thing as much before I left the classroom, so I've only used it in PDs with teachers. So I'll take another minute, let you respond to somebody else, just so you can see and feel what it looks like. Yeah, then after we finish this, I was going to go through and show you Nearpod on the teacher end, like how to create, or Flipgrid on the teacher end, and we can also do some more demo things in the sandbox. Yeah. You should be able to view other videos if you click, because I'm not looking at it as a student. You should be able to click on the discussion and see everybody's. If I can. Can access it as a student. If you refresh, then maybe because you should see them all in a row like this. Huh. I wonder if it's trying to log you in as a teacher, Clayton, instead of a student. So for time's sake, I'm gonna move on, but we can come back and look at Flipgrid. So theoretically, after you provided your lesson, students would record their response, and they would watch 2 of their classmates' responses, and then on the Collaborate board, they would summarize something that they learned from one of their peers. So you would theoretically probably want to have a graphic organizer or something that they're using to take notes as they're watching. So they're saying, like, Julie said Benjamin Franklin's greatest legacy was, and then you would have them look over each other's responses. That way they're able to learn, right, from each other, because learning is an active and social. Like, I learn more from all of you than I learned just from myself, right? Like I was saying about my session yesterday, the people were bouncing off ideas on how to use the stuff we were talking about. So learning is definitely social. And yes, not enough time to do the activity. You would have more time than 45 minutes, right? And you could have a Nearpod go on. Like, you might have students going through the Nearpod in live or on a Monday, and then you might have your roundtable reflection happening the next day. Theoretically, this wouldn't all happen in a 45-minute period. So you would have students listen to one of their peers, summarize what their peer said. Then on another, you could have them do that on the same board, or you could have them do that on separate boards. And I'm also going to give you a template for doing it in a Google slide or in a Google Doc. This roundtable reflection doesn't just have to be done using Nearpod. You can just use Flipgrid. So theoretically, after you responded and you listened to your peers' responses and you reflected on what your peers said, you would be able to have your final response on what you remember or think Benjamin Franklin's legacy and impact on the development of American government is, right? So this activity allows you to generate your response, listen to your peers, respond to them, right? So you know that you actually interacted with what they said and you wrote it and you took it in. Then you would be able to revise what you feel the impact is based on the social learning that occurred with your, peers. So then you could have students use the short answer to finalize their answer, right? So that is just called roundtable reflection. And then also we looked at some of the things that features that are in Nearpod. Right? And then if a student responded and it was really good, you can share it out. Now you're seeing one of your peers' responses. I'm going to end the session, end the Nearpod session. Okay. My goodness, I didn't plan for time here. So I have also included a little video for how to get started on Flipgrid. I'm going to run through the other parts of this presentation, and then afterwards we can, in the sandbox, I can show you how to embed Flipgrids into your Nearpods, or how to just create a Flipgrid from flipgrid.com. But if you needed to go back, there's a little quick video here that walks you through how to create a Flipgrid from Flipgrid. I did want to make sure to provide and show you these examples. So this is a Google Doc that is a roundtable reflection. So if you didn't want to use Nearpod, you could always just at the end of your lesson use this template, make a copy of it, take it, do whatever you want to do with it for a roundtable reflection. So this is, I used Flippity, which there's directions on how to do this to create groups, right? So then when students opened up this, made a copy for all of them in Google Classroom, they were able to see who they were going to listen to, right? So if I'm Daniel, I know that I have to go listen to Gary, Kate, and Jacob's Flipgrids, right? Because sometimes if you say just listen to anybody's, then one person gets more listened to and respond than the other person. So this way you're able to say who you want to listen to whose, right? So you're grouping them so everybody gets some kind of feedback. So then I have step 2, answer the essential question on Flipgrid. I have the Flipgrid linked here, so they click there to do it, and then watch all the videos posted by the people in your group. And then they're going to summarize 2 of the people's, and then they're going to write their final reflection. So if you didn't want to use a roundtable reflection on Nearpod, right, but it's a strategy that you think could be good for summarizing essential questions, here is a template. So feel free to make a copy of it and do what you wish with it. I have also seen roundtable reflections done in a Google Slides. So this is basically the Google Doc, but on a Google slide. So they're answering the essential question on the Flipgrid link, which you would post here. They're going to find out who's in their group by clicking here. Maybe you have it on another slide. They're going to listen to and summarize 2 of their group members in these, in these boxes. So this is a template also for you. That's a Google slide. So feel free to use this, right? You could, if you can go over here and Control-C and Control-V, and you could steal this slide and put it somewhere, and then embed your links here. So this idea of roundtable reflection was inspired by Fisher and Fry and Hattie in that distance learning playbook. If any of you were able to attend their PDs, they've been really helpful. So you can do it through Nearpod like we practiced. You can make a copy of the Google Doc and do it that way. You can also do a roundtable reflection on a Google Slides. Yeah, and I do see, Sarah, that you said some students don't like other students watching their stuff. Cool thing about Flipgrid is it does have those emojis or filters, so they can cover their face with a sticker. So they're not seeing their face. Maybe they're just hearing them. Yeah. I think also the more students practice, then the less intimidating it is to record themselves. It's just a different world. Like you would be talking to your peers in class and you wouldn't be necessarily as uncomfortable, but you're uncomfortable because you're recording a video that other people are watching. So I think the more that you talk about it, and also know that you can make your Flipgrids private so students know that other people aren't seeing them, only the class is seeing them. If you have never used Flippity for grouping, I talked about it yesterday in my session, but there's also a tutorial here for how to use Flippity for grouping. Flippity is cool because it has a bunch of templates that are spreadsheets that you add your students' names into, and then you can do random grouping. You can do like a wheel of names. There's a board game. Like there's a bunch of different strategies that you can use. It's very simple to use. So there's a tutorial linked here if you are interested. And also like looks pretty that you just take a screenshot of the groups and place it into your slide or into your Google Doc. So Flippity for grouping, another strategy. Random grouping. You can choose if you want groups of 2 or 3 or 4. You can have them called teams, not groups. You can reshuffle. So if you see there's kids that you don't want together, you can reshuffle so that they're not together. So that is that. And then we have like a couple minutes left. So what would be most beneficial? I mean, we'll still have Sandbox. Do you want me to show you how to use Nearpod add-on, what it looks like Flipgrid, what it looks like Nearpod on the teacher end? What would be most helpful before we go to break, and then we can also look at the other things when we come back. All of it. Nearpod add-on. Okay, so add-ons. If you're in your slideshow, when you're in Google Slides, up at the top, there's the add-on button. So here's where you will add add-ons. So notice it says get add-ons. So if I go to get add-ons, I can search someday for different add-ons. So I can go up here and type Nearpod, right? And I already have it, but I would click here and it would install it. So now every time I do my add-ons, I can see what add-ons I have, and here's my Nearpod. So if I'm making this slideshow, Now I have my slideshow done. I want to embed some Nearpod activities. I'm going to go to add-ons, Nearpod, open Nearpod. It's going to pull up this little toolbar on the side. So I don't even have to go to Nearpod. So now I can add in a collaborate board, a draw it, here's the virtual field trips. I can add in a Flipgrid, a matching pairs activity, all of these different activities. So if I wanted to add a Flipgrid, I can click Flipgrid. It's gonna take me it's going to take me here. So one thing about the Flipgrid is that I have to go to Flipgrid to make it, and then I have to insert my URLs in here, and that's what's going to insert that into my slides. So if I am in Flipgrid, I'm logged in as a teacher. If you've never used it before, when you log in, it's going to say log in as an educator, and just log in with Google. So it looks something like this. They're called topics. So I'm going to add a topic, which is creating a Flipgrid. So this is just going to be, just going to call it the SLAM sample. So I can give it a title. I can then insert my question or my sentence frame, my prompt, right? Oops, if I could type, right? I can add in whatever I want. Other cool thing is you can add in media. So if there's a YouTube video that you want to throw in there that you want students to watch, if you want to throw in a funny GIF or an emoji. So oftentimes I'll go here and I searched Benjamin Franklin, and that's where he just pops up. That's where there was all these different GIFs I could choose from. And you select it, and that becomes the little image that you'll see. So private or public. If you're working with students, you're going to want to make your Flipgrid private. You can have student email or student username. If you're doing email, if you go in here, all you have to do is put our student.salinasuhsd.org, and then students will be prompted to have to log in with their school email to respond to the Flipgrid. You can also make it so it's a password. So that makes it private as well. So you may make it like Ghan and I don't know, 600, whatever you want it to be. You can make a password that students have to put in order to access the Nearpod. Right, so once you set up your Nearpod, down here's more things. You can turn on topic moderation. So this is new videos and comments will be hidden from students until you activate them. So if you want to preview videos before students see them, you turn this on. Otherwise, if it's turned off, their things will just post. So depending on your rapport and how you feel your students are, how mature, their maturity level, you might turn on or off topic moderation. You can turn comments off and on. So if you want them to be able to leave video and text comments, or only video comments, or only text, or if you don't want them to comment at all, you can modify that. You can change the closed captions. So if you want to change closed captions to Spanish, if you have, if you're in an ELD, or if you have English language learners and that would help them to see their peers' captions in Spanish, you can change that. You can change the time. So if you want it to be really short, if you want it to be a longer video, you can change that. And then you're just going to hit create your topic. There was an issue. Oh, because I have to do this. Student.salinasuhsd.org. I'm not going to do a password. So I'm just going to put in our students' email, right? If you put this in, then they should all be able to access it. So now it's creating my topic, and then this pops up. I can post this in Google Classroom. I can copy the link. I can make a QR code. I can send it out on my Remind. So there's multiple ways that you can share this. So remember that we were doing it through the add-on, through the Nearpod add-on. So it's asking me for the topic URL and the join link. So this is the topic URL. So I'm going to copy this and paste it into here. And then I should be able to just press add. Oh, wants both. So it's asking me to do this, my URL, and then also my topic. So here's my URL, and then this is my topic code. Then add. It's going to create a slide. And it's going to embed that, right? And it's going to have directions for students, so how to do it. So now when I'm doing my lesson, my Flipgrid, well, I have to start my Nearpod. So once you add in all your activities, so if I wanted to add in, right, if I wanted to go add on Nearpod, I closed it. Slow. If I wanted to add something else, I could go in here and I could add a collaborate board. I can enter the topic, the title, add a picture. It's going to save it and create a slide. So now in order for students to access this, like I can't just give them the slides. I have to give them the join code in Nearpod. So I'm going to go to my Nearpod account. And I'm going to hit create Google Slides. I'm not doing this right for you guys, I don't think. Okay, I lied to you, never mind. Don't do that. If you want to create, you can do this way, or once you have your slides in here, down here it says save and go to Nearpod. So if I hit save and go to Nearpod, it's going to take all of my slides and it's going to put them into a Nearpod. So you can see it's saving it right here. I want to point out that when you save your Google Slides to a Nearpod, it flattens everything. So it might not look as pretty as it looked in your Google Slides, but it's still easier and more manipulative than if you created within Nearpod. So now it's going to take my things, it's going to put it over here, and I'm going to be able to get the code for students to join. Right, so if I want to do student paste, it's going to say the code. I can change the date. Students have 29 days. I can say students have 2 days, 23 hours to complete the assignment. And then I can easily post that in my Google Classroom, send it in an email, send it out in Remind. I can get the link, right? Or I can put the code in Google Classroom for students. You can turn on skipping. So if you don't want students to be able to skip activities, you want them to complete every single activity, make sure you have this on so they're not allowed to skip. Also point out that once a student starts a student pace, it doesn't save. Like they have to finish it. They can't go back and start where they left off. It'll start a whole new one, which is something I worked with the teacher on the other couple weeks before break. Okay, I think that takes us to time. It takes us over time. So we're going to take our 15-minute break. You can take all that stuff in and then come back with your questions and ready to create something in Nearpod, or take one of the templates and mess around with it and ask questions and such. So we'll take our 15-minute break. So we'll say 10:15, 10 or 11:20.